Hello, friends, and welcome to Quantum Astrology with your traveling warrior astrologer, yours truly, Yvonne Davis. I'm the author of two books, The Power of Manifestation and In the Magic Flow, which I actually published almost 20 years ago. And with the rebranding of my channel, I am going back to my roots where I look at issues of power, how we create our reality, how we manifest reality, and how we can live in an experience of being in an enchanted world and having the power to create that world. It's called an internal locus of control. So this channel, now rebranded Quantum Astrology, will focus on things like consciousness expansion, consciousness evolution, all the tools and techniques for consciousness expansion and consciousness evolution, along with getting back to general astrology and using astrology for the purpose of pattern recognition, or electional astrology, which is electing the best timing to take actions that helps us. It's like if you want to have a picnic, you can do that on a day when the weather is nice, as opposed to when there is, a astrological storm. So we can also look at astrocartography, which is finding the best location for yourself to activate different kinds of astrological energies. So those are the kinds of things I'm going to be doing on this channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be looking at the most interesting things that will be happening in our world as soon as Pluto enters Aquarius on November 19th, 2024. It will be there for 20 years, and it will radically reshape our world. I mean, I'm expecting it to be so radical a shift that it's almost like the world we live in won't even be recognizable. And I hope this is going to be for the better, obviously, but I do think that has a lot to do with how we have evolved our consciousness. I love the quote by Einstein when he said, "A problem cannot be solved from the level of consciousness that created it." And so if you flip that around, basically what it says is all problems can be solved with a new level of consciousness. So that's why I'm interested in raising consciousness, because if we are in a polarity, then we're always in a tug of war. So if you're on one side of that tug of war, you can never really bring about integration or a shift into a newer, higher reality, a newer, higher level of consciousness, because you're always stuck on that one side of the tug of war. So it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we never end up with integration or synthesis, which is a higher level of consciousness. And so I've been doing consciousness raising work for decades, and I feel like it's time for me to get back to the core of what I truly believe in. So that's what I'm planning to do here with my newly branded channel, Quantum Astrology. So as I just mentioned, astrology is pattern recognition. And that means that you can see what are the future trends based on what we've seen in the past, in history. We just look at the cycles. That's pattern recognition. And then we can make guesses about what are the themes that will come to life when Pluto is in Aquarius for 20 years. So I've been saying a lot about what this new channel will be, this new rebranded channel. And so I just want to ask you again, if you like this content, please subscribe, please like this video, share with anyone whom you think might be interested, because I need to begin regrowing this channel. And, it's probably going to take about 6 months for a turnover of the demographics of viewers who were watching my channel in the past, but aren't interested in the new material, and drawing in people who are interested in consciousness expansion and really want that in their lives. So you can help me with that algorithmic shift by doing things like subscribing if you're not yet subscribed, liking this video to let the algorithm know that you like this new kind of content, sharing it with anyone who might be interested. I would really appreciate that. and also commenting below. You can comment about anything in these videos, but also you can suggest topics if there's something that you can think of that would be interesting to you, or the way that I'm talking about it would be interesting to you, then yeah, please feel free to put a comment in the comments below. And as always, if you want a reading, I'm doing my special right now, my $99 end of the year special, New Year's special, and you can click on the link in the description box below for that. You can also come over to Patreon and join me there with my astrology community. We talk about anything they want to talk about, anything. There are no limits, okay? And that way, any questions they have, they can get answered through anything that I know and looking at the charts. But also, I am giving away a free workshop to my patrons called 30-Day Manifestation Challenge. And we're going to meet and set our intentions for manifesting something that's really important to us over the next 30 days. And I think that that will be really fun, really empowering, and help us to build community and support each other. And if you just want to take the free workshop, feel free to go sign up as a patron at the lowest rate of $5 and cancel after 1 month if that's what you want to do. There is no obligation. So you can get this free workshop for $5 and you can check out my Patreon community. So there are a few things that I want to talk about in relationship to Pluto moving into Aquarius for 20 years, which is this idea of the shift into a new element. And this happens every 200 years. We are in one of those shifts now. So as part of Pluto moving into Aquarius and Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, moving into the air sign of Gemini in the next 2 years, what we will see is things like technology on the rise, and also the use of astrology. Astrology will become more and more popular as well. So these planetary cycles show that astrology is going to grow and boom over the coming decades and centuries. And a lot of astrologers have wondered if the revival of interest in astrology actually has something to do with the presence of Neptune in Pisces. I think that idea actually has a lot of merit, because the planet Neptune shows where our collective imagination is directed. And in Pisces, it's directed toward mystical matters and toward the idea that everything is connected, and the boundaries between our 3D physical reality and the metaphysical quantum reality have been dissolving during the time that Neptune has been in its domicile of the sign of Pisces. Therefore, in the last few years, we've seen a boom in astrology, as well as adjacent topics like magic and other forms of divination, such as tarot. I'm also interested in looking at the work of Dean Radin, who I believe is the director of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and he wrote a book titled Real Magic. And so he is actually looking at these topics from a scientific point of view, which I think is going to become more and more popular as these outer planets move into air signs like Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. However, in 2025, both Neptune and Saturn, which are both now in Pisces, will dip their toes into Aries, which is a fire sign and has a completely different energy. By July of 2026, all of the outer planets will be in either fire or air signs, making trines and sextiles at 4 degrees. The trines and sextiles get energy flowing more smoothly, for better or worse, bringing issues to the fore that will need to be dealt with. But for now, I'm just going to stay focused on how we can raise our consciousness, evolve our consciousness, both on the individual level and on the collective level, and empower ourselves by developing an internal locus of control rather than an external locus of control. And we're going to need that for what's coming in the future, not just because of the new technologies like AI, VR, augmented reality, neural nets, and possibly computer chips embedded in the human body, creating something called transhumanism, along with a greater awareness and knowledge of other intelligent beings interacting with us here on planet Earth. The problem with aliens is that 1/3 of the human population will hate and fear them, seeing them as a threat and wanting to annihilate them. And 1/3 of the population will bow down and worship them as gods, goddesses, and angelic beings whom they think are here to save humanity. And the final third of the human population will stay present and curious about the phenomena, waiting to see what actually happens, rather than jumping to conclusions about what these entities are and what their agenda is. In other words, we have questions like, what are they doing? What do they want? What are their values? What is their worldview? And we don't really have answers to any of these questions, only guesses. We don't even know what dimension they're from. Are they from another planet, another star system, another galaxy, another dimension? We just simply don't know. Actually, maybe they're even from Earth. Maybe they've always been here, and so we just have a lot of questions, and we need to be open to exploring those questions rather than jumping to conclusions. Unfortunately, those who seek power over others will use these tendencies in humans, the tendency of most people to give their power away, as an opportunity to control other people's thoughts, feelings, and behavior around this phenomena in order to gain power for themselves. So I hope what I'm saying there makes sense. Basically, they aren't trying to understand what this phenomena is. They are simply using it as a way to control other people in whatever way they want, either control them with fear and hate and this idea that they're a threat. So humans on this planet can control other humans on this planet by feeding them a story of fear, hate, threat. That's how you control people. Or they can control people by making them believe that these beings are, they're godlike, they're angelic, and they're here to save us. We must bow down and worship them. But you see, the problem with this is that both of these ways of interacting with an external phenomena is a way of giving power away. It's an external locus of control. And what I'm saying is that on this channel, I want to talk about developing an internal locus of control. That goes hand in hand with consciousness evolution. As you evolve your consciousness, you begin to take the power back into yourself more and more and more. That's an internal locus of control. And that is a form of self-empowerment. And I think that that's also part of Pluto in Aquarius, because Aquarius is about the individual, Pluto is about power. So Aquarius, being about the individual and the collective, says that with Pluto there, we as individuals and the collective are looking at what is power. How can we empower ourselves as individuals, and how can we put that into the collective? And I'm saying that really the only way to do that is to have an internal locus of control, to evolve your consciousness, and then put that in the collective consciousness, the morphogenic field, okay, or the quantum field. And that other people with their consciousness connected to that field can draw energy from that and become self-empowered themselves. So every time we empower ourselves with an internal locus of control, we put that into the morphogenic field, and that helps other people raise their consciousness and become more empowered in the collective, because all of those individuals are now able to raise their consciousness and develop an internal locus of control as well. I think that's the only way we're going to get past this tug of war that we've been stuck in for so long, so long, hundreds of years now. Actually, you could say it goes back to the beginning of recorded time. But we do see the evolution of the human consciousness. If you have ever been exposed to spiral dynamics, it's actually a map of human consciousness evolution. And it shows that we have actually been evolving our consciousness, and we're right on the brink of a major shift into what's called tier 2 integral consciousness. And I'm super excited about this. And I want to be a part of helping people shift into tier 2 integral consciousness. So as I was saying, a major astrological shift is now occurring. Outer planet conjunctions happen in signs of the same element for roughly 200 years, and then they change element. So you get 200 years of fire conjunctions, then 200 years of earth, and then 200 years of air, and then 200 years of water, and then the cycle repeats. So what you have in total is an 800-year cycle. And what I'm saying is we're now shifting from earth to air. And the move of Pluto into Aquarius and staying there for 20 years, it's like locking it in. And then when Uranus moves into Gemini over the next 2 years, it's locking it in. So Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years and Uranus will be in Gemini for 7 years. And during that time period is when we will experience, that 7 years is when we will experience the most dramatic shifts in our way of being, our way of thinking, our technology. So many things will be affected by this. The astrologers who originally developed this theory used it to predict the changing of dynasties and leaders. They used it to predict the appearance of prophets as well as calamities. And I think we can guess at some potential calamities, but the thing is that I really want to be sure that on this channel, I am no longer making predictions about the future. Rather, I'm simply discussing trends, potential trends, because as beings with free will, and also any astrologer will tell you that if you are reading someone's chart and you are talking about things that might manifest in their lives based on what's happening in their chart, you also always have to take into consideration their level of consciousness. It makes a massive difference. Absolutely, 100%. I know people who will fall into the worst energies of certain alignments, while others will be literally completely unaffected. And it's very easy to see why that happens when you look at their level of consciousness. Those who have a higher level of consciousness are able to ground the energies from the cosmos and to stay balanced and to use that energy in creative, constructive, meaningful ways. Whereas those who have a lot of wounding and fear and hate inside their energetic bodies, they are not able to properly ground the cosmic energy. And that's why a lot of times they go off the deep end, okay? So in my opinion, everything comes down to raising the level of consciousness of the human species. Our future depends on it, really. It absolutely depends on it, because we are at a crossroads now. And I believe that if we don't raise our consciousness, then we will be in another cycle, like in what you might see in the Younger Dryas, which I'm not going to go into that right now. If you're interested, there's tons of information out there about what happened during the Younger Dryas period. So the interesting thing right now is that we've just passed through an age of Earth, and Earth signs are associated with the tangible material reality, with things like money and land. And if we think back to what happened in the 19th and 20th centuries, we saw the Industrial Revolution, the machine age, and we saw the triumph of capitalism, which is a very materialistic economic system because it produces a lot of material goods. And we saw things like colonialism and imperialism, and we saw the whole world being divided into parcels of land called nation states. We also saw the adoption of a materialist worldview, where the world consists of material particles like billiard balls on a table, knocking against each other, where everything is understood to function like a big cosmic machine, and the spiritual dimensions of life were denied. This is shifting again, and it began with the rise of the quantum nuclear age. These elemental ages are sequences of 200 years, but actually that is a bit of a simplification of what really happens. So due to retrograde motion, there's always a bit of back and forth between elements at the ends of these ages. As an example, in 1980, we had the first air conjunction in the sign of Libra, but then in 2000, we moved back to Earth with a conjunction in Taurus. And then in 2020, we had a conjunction in Aquarius. That was the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And now it's going to be air conjunctions all the way. So we're really in the age of air now. But that period of 1980 to 2020 was a really interesting one. It was a kind of transitional period in which both air and earth were operating at the same time. So there's this overlap, okay? And that does happen for quite a while before we fully shift into the next element, and we're in that process now. So the obvious question is, what is air associated with? And while we explore that question, remember that Pluto will be in an air sign for 20 years, and Uranus will move into the air sign of Gemini over the next 2 years and stay there for a total of 7 years. So in this time frame between now and 2032, we will see the themes of these two planets, Pluto and Uranus, brought to bear in the air signs of Aquarius and Gemini. Air is associated with things like the intellect, the mind, communication, how we think, and the tools and technologies we use for how we communicate information. It's really quite remarkable that what happened in the first air period of 1980 to 2000 was the invention of the internet and information technology that connects everyone together via the World Wide Web. It reminds me of the neural networks inside the human brain. So we've now externalized those neural networks to connect all of humanity into one global brain. That's what we call the internet, or the World Wide Web. To understand the transformational power of having outer planets shift into air signs, first of all, let's take a look at the rulerships of the different signs in the air triplicity. We have Gemini ruled by Mercury. We have Libra ruled by Venus, in which Saturn is exalted. And we have Aquarius, traditionally ruled by Saturn, but now co-ruled by Uranus. We also have what's called triplicity rulers. Each of the triplicities was assigned the 3 planets as traditional rulers, and the air triplicity rulers were Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter. Now, if we look at all these rulers, we have a little pattern occurring, which is that Saturn and Mercury are very strong amongst all of these rulerships. And that's really interesting because Mercury is the traditional ruler of astrology. Mercury is the planet of communication, the messenger of the gods. And then Saturn is connected with the old and ancient wisdom. So these 2 factors alone suggest that astrology and other forms of divination, particularly ancient forms, are likely to be revived in the age of air. Myself, as a lover of science fiction and the author of a science fiction novel titled VR, I'm absolutely fascinated by these subjects. And I have so much more to say about all of these fascinating trends. We're only at the beginning, but it's a subject that thoroughly engages me, and I cannot wait to bring you more on these topics in upcoming videos. But before it gets too long, that's all I'm going to say in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and share it with anybody else you think might be interested in what I'm doing here now on quantum astrology. I'm going to be putting out regular videos about the astrological alignments and consciousness expansion, including how we can empower ourselves by shifting into an internal locus of control and understanding the trends in technology over the next 20 years. I'd really like to build a community here of like-minded people who are interested in looking at the world this way. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Yvonne Davis, signing out. Bye-bye.